Can you describe what's going on in Sudan right now?
What's going on in Sudan, people like to call it a civil war, but what we like to call it is a proxy war because it's internal conflicts as well as external conflicts. So it's the RSF, the Rapid Support Forces, fighting the SAF, which is Sudanese Armed Forces, and the only people that are really, really affected by it is the civilians.
The conflict of Sudan has been going on for 30 years, but now Khartoum and a lot of different cities have been impacted. The military is fighting against militias, and the sad outcome is that people are dying in the process.
The reason we're outside of the UAE embassy today is because the UAE is also highly complicit in funding the RSF. There have been massacres that have been committed throughout Sudan, especially over the last year, and by September, 2.5 million are estimated to die from food impoverishment.
It's genocide, mass killings, mass displacement of Sudanese people, mass refugees, all being perpetrated by the United Arab Emirates, funding the RSF and militias to take Sudan for its minerals and ports.
The UK government is not doing enough. The UK government is actually a penholder for Sudan. So they represent Sudan in the Security Council. So anything relatively that happens in Sudan falls onto them as a penholder of Sudan.
Lots of videos of people who have actually tried to flee through the north of Sudan towards Egypt and haven't even made it. They've died en route. Every Sudanese person that you speak to will probably know members of their family who have lost their lives directly or indirectly because of the war. I don't think anyone's unscathed. And on top of that, I think the longer the war continues, the deeper the crisis will be and the numbers will go up exponentially over time. Sudan takes place at the same time as the Congo, as Palestine, Ukraine. The media doesn't give it the same amount of airtime, partly because it's not as straightforward a conversation.
There's been so much global solidarity for Palestine and just not nearly as much for Sudan. I was wondering if you could talk about why you think this is and what effect that has on Sudanese people. I think the reality is that Black lives are just not given as much importance. I think there was a huge movement when it came to Black Lives Matter, and I think people could relate to that because it was a Western take on Black Lives Matter. I think for Sudan, it's been ignored. It's been ignored for 3 decades. It's not surprising. I do think more people are understanding the issue now, but we're still needing more support.
You hear the Sudanese people say it in front of you, and it's heartbreaking to hear them say, oh, why is the Palestine protest? And fair enough, everyone should turn up to Palestine. They've had 75 years of ethnic cleansing and colonization, and it deserves to be spoken about, but so does Sudan on the same level. What's happening in Darfur especially is a genocide. What's happening in Rafah in Palestine is a genocide. They are both equally as important, and it's affecting millions and millions of people.
Whenever there is something that is done in a way where there is one group that is being oppressed by another, well, the one that is being oppressed never gets to notice that it needs different words to always do. So we can see this in different things in the world that's happening, especially with in Palestine, right now in Israel, different words that have been used in the media. With Sudan being an African country, we can't act like the media showing things hasn't been in an anti-Black way or an anti-African way, and unfortunately it doesn't get the notice and the regards that it needs, even though the numbers are really, really high with the amount of people that are passing away, the amount of people that have been displaced, the amount of children that are out of education, the amount of universities that have been gone, the amount of hospitals. The media is not picking up on it. A lot of people stood for Black Lives Matter, especially following the murder of George Floyd. Well, we need you to stand for Black lives again. Not just for the lives in Congo, or lives in Tigray. There's so much going on that we need to band together for, and it will only work if we're all together.
We're boycotting the UAE because of their violent support of different groups in Sudan. Different ways of boycotting is to not use their airlines, to not buy their gold, to not go there on holiday.
Don't fly on Fly Dubai or Etihad Airways or Emirates Airlines or any of their airlines. They go to many destinations, so people will use their airlines even if they're not going to the UAE itself.
We should expose the Manchester City Football Club. They should, cut ties with the UAE somehow. It's a start. There's so many things that we can do. Yes, a small protest like we're having now is a start. We do bigger and bigger and bigger to put pressure on the UK divest from the UAE, everything, boycott them, the airlines, their holidays, etc., etc. It can be done. It's a lot of work, but if you look at the Palestinian cause, it's working.
Speak out loud about it on social media. They're restricting everyone's social media, so UAE looks like this perfect country because honestly they are super, super rich and they have a lot of control when it comes to tech. So yeah, speak about it on social media, speak about it to people, spread the word. We have an email template that's addressed to the FCDO on London for Sudan Linktree. Please email the FCDO and make sure that your voice is heard and that the UAE know how we feel about their situation and their control over the RSF and their complicity to a genocide.
The UAE is another country that should be boycotted for its crimes. They're just doing it on the sly and hoping that they'll get away with it. But the world is waking up very, very slowly. Just like the world's woken up to what Israel is doing and its reasons and so on. The world needs to wake up and is very, very slowly waking up to what the UAE is doing in Sudan.